Hello again, and welcome to Books and Things with Tom, and I am Tom. And today we have a special guest. He was a editor and book designer. His name is Dick Margulis, and Dick is a chief cook and bottle washer at Dick Margulis Creative Services, where his focus is on thoughtful editing, appropriate design, expert production, and comprehensive project management for publishers of all sizes. He began correcting his elders as a small child and has been editing one thing or another for over half a century. He learned to set type at an early age and has been studying and practicing typography ever since. Dick says, "In my quest to educate everyone on the business of writing and publishing books, we are fortunate to have with us, among his other talents, book designs." Welcome, Dick. And how are you today?
Pleased to be here. I'm good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Glad you could make it. Now, all authors have a conception of what they want on the cover of a book. Do you usually try to design according to that, or just?
Well, I'm a mechanic.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not the most creative person in the world. And very often authors have very creative ideas of what they want on the book. I'll give you an example right here. This is an author who came to me and said, "I want the book to be this size." She had a little book that Thich Nhat Hanh had written, and a spiritual book, and this is a spiritual book. And she said, "I want the book this size." And she said, "And I had a friend of mine take this photograph. This is a photograph, this is a close-up of a brass escutcheon plate with a keyhole in it."
Oh, wow.
So it's a close-up of a little tiny keyhole, right? And all of this, all these lines are actually etched lines in this old worn brass.
Wow.
She said, that's the picture I want on the cover of the book. I said, fine, but I'm a typographer. So my job is then to design the type to fit in and to say what she wants it to say and to do it in a way that's in keeping with the delicate nature of the book. Mm-hmm. And then as the cover designer, I have to come up with, the whole layout that has the front flap. I can't do that upside down. The front flap, front cover, the spine, the back cover, the back flap that has all the things that a bookstore expects, the barcode, the shelving category, the price, the publisher's imprint. So I'm a typographer and a mechanic, and I work with the author or somebody else, and I'm not the illustrator. Sometimes the illustration is purchased.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go and research the illustration and get some ideas. And then the design aspect is that I'm making a mechanical that can go to the printer as what's called a trouble-free file.
Okay.
So that the printer can print it and it's going to work and it's going to fit on the book and all the pieces are going to be in the right place and the bookstore can use the book and everybody's going to be happy. So it's design in the sense that everything in our built world is designed by somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, we go through life saying, oh, well, nobody designed that. It's just text on a page. Nobody designed that. Well, yeah, somebody did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, because you have to use the right fonts.
Yeah, and you have to have a ruler that works. You have to, and software that works, and all that sort of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's so many different fonts. I started downloading a couple of fonts, and I gave up.
They're not all high quality fonts.
No, they're not, especially if they're free.
Especially if they're free. But really, book typography is the art of being invisible. I don't want to intermediate between the author and the reader.
Okay.
Okay? So I want to be as transparent as possible, which means I want to use fonts that are familiar. Mm-hmm. I want to use them in ways that are familiar so that you as the reader are just reading the author's words and communicating with the author.
Yeah.
And you as the author communicating with the reader. If you say, oh, gee, isn't that a pretty font, then I've failed.
Okay, I see what you're saying. And there's a lot of times you read a book and sometimes the print is too small, and of course, getting up in age, it's difficult to be able to see a lot of these print. But they make the book a little smaller and save pages by making the print smaller.
There are a lot of publishers who do that to save a nickel.
Yeah.
There are a lot of self-publishing authors who do it themselves, and they do that, and that's a mistake.
Yeah.
A lot of times, though, it isn't the size of the type, it's the length of the line.
Ah.
So if you have tiny type on a long line,
Yeah.
there are too many characters, and your eyes get to the end of the line, and you
Okay.
come back and you miss the next line. You jump back up and you say, I just read those words.
Yeah.
Okay. So by having a shorter line, you can use smaller type. Again, with a very small book like this one,
Yeah.
the type is not very large.
Oh no.
But
Yeah.
the number of characters on the line is appropriate, so that when you're reading it, whatever distance you have to hold it,
Yeah.
at our age, right? It's still a comfortable read.
Yeah. Now, I just read a book, and actually it's about 911, one of the survivors. Interesting book, about the size of this one, but the type was like an inch and a quarter margins on both sides.
Yeah.
Which made it very interesting reading and easy reading because
It makes it easy reading, gives you a place to put your thumbs.
Yeah.
People take notes in books.
Yeah.
They have since before Gutenberg.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't either. I was brought up with you don't mark in books.
No.
I cannot. I've never used a highlighter in my life. I went through 4 years of college, never used a highlighter. I can't write in a book, but people do.
Yeah, they do.
And Fermat's last theorem was written in the margin of a book.
Yeah.
And that's called the scholar's margin.
Yeah.
Okay, and the scholar's margins are wide, and they're wide so that people can take notes, but also to make for a comfortable read.
Yeah.
I like to give people a generous margin. It affects the cost, but doesn't affect it that much.
No, and it's got to be comfortable for the reader.
It has to be comfortable.
And it's unfortunately, and today they have changed all the rules in grammar and typing like it used to be. The end of the paragraph, you skip a line and indent or not indent.
Well, that's typing, but we're not typing. We're typesetting.
And now you don't do that anymore.
Well, it doesn't matter if you do or you don't. I'm not going to carry that forward into a typeset page.
Okay.
Because a typeset page is something that derives from the manuscript pages of medieval manuscripts. We haven't changed the design of the page that much.
Yeah.
In 1300, 700 some years.
Yeah.
We haven't really made that radical a change in pages. So when somebody treats a book page like a typewriter page, like they're writing an office letter with block paragraph style and skipped lines and all that, that's not a book page. If you want to write somebody a letter, write them a letter.
Yeah.
If you want to write a book, write the book. That's the manuscript. But Word is not a page layout program. So we take the Word file and we import it into, in my case, InDesign. Other people use other programs. Most people use InDesign these days, and apply typographic attributes to it.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, what do you mean by typographic? So I'm sure some of the audience, and I don't
Okay.
really.
Well, are the margins justified or are they ragged?
Okay. Do you
I got
recommend?
that on the wrong side. If you're talking to the audience, it's
Do
this
you,
side.
do you recommend justified?
For typical books, that's what Americans expect.
Yeah.
Now in Europe,
to-
many people expect a sans serif font, and they expect the margin to be ragged. But our experience in the United States is reading justified serif types.
Okay.
And so when it's not, then if it's some kind of a novelty book, fine.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to do it,
Yeah.
or not to use it in special circumstances. But for a novel, say, that would be something that would interfere with the communication between the author and the reader again. But typography means, where do we break lines? How do we space the words? How do we space the letters? what kind of ornamentation do we use at the beginning of a chapter? How do we lay out the page so it's got running heads and folios, page numbers? What do the margins look like? All that stuff is much easier to do in a page layout program than in a word processing program.
Okay, all right. Yeah, because you see so many different kinds of things, and especially in self-publishing. I hate to say that some of the self-publishers are really should hire an editor.
Well, they're not self-publishing; they're do-it-yourself publishing.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's really hard to edit yourself.
Oh.
I have trouble editing myself. Everybody has. You know, a friend of mine just wrote a book on indexing, a professional manual on how to do a book index.
Huh.
And she did not index her own book. She sent it out to an indexer.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so
That sounds logical.
It is logical.
Yeah.
It's very hard to edit yourself, or to index yourself, to do any of those things yourself. And so when people do it yourself publishing to get a book out for $100, you know, total expenditure from beginning to end, they're cheating themselves.
Yeah. It's so visible now because on the computer or the internet, you get these lines that says, you can read this letter, and the first letter is right, the last letter is right, everything in between is total scribble. And I can actually read that.
Yeah.
And that's why you shouldn't edit your own thing.
That's one of the reasons, because you see what you expect to see, which is what you thought you wrote.
Yeah.
And you miss the missing words, you miss the double words, you miss the homonyms that are spelled wrong. Now, a lot of people are very skilled writers, and they write very well. They need editors. Other people aren't writers at all. They're authors. They have authority in their subject matter. They are subject matter experts. And they have a story to tell. Maybe it's their own story. Maybe it's a memoir. Maybe it's a nonfiction book. Maybe it's fiction. They have a story to tell, and they know what they want to say, but they're not writers. They made it through high school English because their teachers didn't want to hold them back and have to deal with them again. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I get manuscripts like that all the time. Well, my job as an editor is to, again, make it transparent, make it so the reader understands your story clearly, understandably. And if you're not a writer, I'll do a lot of the writing, the ghost writing for you. If you are a writer, all I'm going to do is clean up your little errors that you have. You know?
That was one of my past shows. We were talking about editing, and I tried to explain that editing isn't just checking the words. Sometimes you may have a paragraph on page 3 that should be around page 1.
Yes, there are all kinds of levels of edit, starting with, you know, you may come to me with an outline, and I may say, well, you know, the outline's in the wrong order.
Yeah.
Let's rearrange that. And then you may go back and write, and it may come to me and I say, well, you know, this paragraph really belongs at the end, or really belongs at the beginning, or really you know, let's switch these two. This sentence doesn't really say what you mean it to say. So there are levels of edit from broad developmental editing down to line editing, down to copy editing. And then after the book is typeset, of course, it goes out to a proofreader, who is another set of eyes. I don't proofread work that I typeset because I would miss stuff.
Yep. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
I like to, excuse me, I mentioned in one of my previous shows that, to me, editing, writing a book, you write the book, and I tell people, don't worry about the order or anything else, just get it all down there. And it's kind of like going out and getting a new apartment, going out and buying all new things for your apartment. You put it in the living room, and you say, okay, and that's your book. And now you say, okay, this goes here, this goes there, until eventually all the stuff is gone out of the living room, and everything is in its place.
That's correct.
And it's like editing.
It's like editing. It's very much like editing. Yeah. That's right.
So it's tough though. I know both my books got errors. I mean, how could I possibly miss that?
Well, you know, we're human.
Yeah.
We are not designed to do error-free work. We're designed to home in on our prey, which is a wandering exercise.
Yeah.
And the same applies to editing. We're not machines.
Yeah.
Okay? So what I tell people is, you know, a competent editor, if you were an employer with 50 editors working for you, and you were doing evaluations for them at the end of the year, you would want to know that each of them caught 95% of the errors that were placed in front of them.
Yeah.
That would be a baseline. Most independent editors will shoot for 98, 99%, but 95 is a good, you have no complaint if I catch 95% of yours. So, well, okay, if you give me a manuscript that's got 10,000 errors in it, and I correct 9,500 of them, there's still 500 errors left in there.
Yeah,
that's
it's
not good.
visible.
Right, okay. If you send me a manuscript that's got 10 errors in it, well, they should all be gone.
Yeah.
And so it's a scale, all right?
Yeah.
So the object in producing a book, because it's a long thing and statistically there are going to be errors, is multiple reads. You know, you've made it as correct as you can make it. I'm going to edit it once. I'm going to edit it again. The proofreader is going to edit it the final time. And at the end, there might still be some errors left. Most books have an error or two. Some have more than that. And some are complete slopper.
It makes you feel good to read a published book and by a published author, and you go, error.
That's right. It makes you feel good. Doesn't mean anything, though, because it's human.
It doesn't. Yeah.
It's human. We don't have perfection.
No.
We aim for it, but we don't get it.
No. But it's fun anyway. It's good to write. Now, tell me the difference between self-publishing from vanity publishing and from do-it-yourself publishing on the other hand.
Okay, well, we talked about do-it-yourself publishing a little bit. That's where somebody decides they're going to do it themselves, period.
Yeah.
Most people have some skills that they're better at than other skills. Someone might be a very good writer, might be not so good a writer, but pretty good self-editor, might be not very good at that, but might be a good designer. Different people have different skills. Mm-hmm. With self-publishing, you say, I have the concept, I know what I want the book to be about, I'm going to write it, but I'm going to bring in Dick or Jody or Bill or Kathy to edit it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring in, Dick or Steve or somebody else to design it. And I'm going to be the publisher. Okay, when you're the publisher, you take off your author hat, you put on your publisher hat, and you assign tasks to people who have expertise in those fields.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and you say, okay, I'm the publisher, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go out and run the printing press.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to pay a printer to print it, or I'm going to use digital printing and print on demand. So that's self-publishing. Do-it-yourself publishing is where you try to do all that stuff yourself, and most people don't do all of it very well. Yeah. The main thing that a publisher does is sell books. So all those craft steps, all the stuff I do to produce books, are really their secondary concern. Their primary concern, once they've taken off the author hat, is how am I going to market the book?
Right.
With vanity publishing, you're paying somebody else to sit at a desk, collect half of your money and put it in his pocket, take the other half and shop for the cheapest possible services, and then tell the editors, no, don't do any real substantive editing, just fix the spelling errors because that's all I'm paying you for. So you're getting less of an edit, you're getting a template design for the most part.
Yeah.
And then the company says, and we're going to help you market the book. How are we going to help you market the book? We're going to list it on Amazon for you. Well, you can list it on Amazon yourself.
Yeah.
I can list it on Amazon for you. That doesn't cost anything. So you're paying hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars, to a company whose customer is you, the author, and who has no interest in selling books. They don't care if you never sell a book because they've made their money already.
They got it from you.
That's right. That's right.
There's one company that one of my members is having problems with, and they gave him $1 to buy the rights to publish it. He gave up his right to the book. He gave up rights to everything. They published the book and priced it at $29.95. Should be around $20 maybe. He wants copies to sell. They sell it to him for, I think he said $18.
Yeah, so he's not making anything.
Plus shipping on each book. So if he sends 10 books, he's got to pay shipping for 10 books per book.
Yeah.
And no, he can't make any money. He can't even afford to buy the books back.
That's right. That's right.
And he's stuck to them like 7 years.
Okay, so I got a phone call a couple years ago from this guy, Steve Feligi. Pointed the right direction.
Yeah.
Okay. He says, I've written this book. It's a different kind of bowling manual. It's unique, and I'm a bowling Hall of Fame bowler and a pro, and I've been teaching bowling a long time. And I said, well, you should self-publish it. He said, well, I'm thinking about one of the vanity presses, and I'm not going to name it. And I said, well, you really shouldn't do that. And I told him why, And he writes me a letter 8 months later. Should have listened to you. So he spent quite a lot of time negotiating to get his rights back from this company, which he did. He succeeded doing, and then he had me publish the book, and it came out a lot better. They had selected an illustrator who was terrible. He and I went and found an illustrator. We corrected all the errors. We did an edit. It hadn't been edited at all. It was terrible, And the cover, he looked at the cover that they sent him, and he found another book on Amazon that had almost the same title with the identical illustration.
Oh my God.
So
Template.
Yeah. So it doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work.
No.
This turned out to be a really sweet little book.
Yeah. My first book, I paid over $1,000 to get it published. And I did not know what I was doing. I researched the contract, made sure everything was right. Problem was I wasn't a member of Kappa, and I had no idea how to do it. So I went with this company. $1,300 it cost me. I edited the book. I designed the cover. I designed everything. The only thing they did for me was to number the pages. And they didn't charge me for that.
How generous of them.
Yeah, and then they sent me 40 books.
Yeah.
$1,300. And that's it.
40 books for $1,300.
Cheap.
Cheap. Yeah.
But it's a publish on demand. So if I want 10 books, I can order 10 books, or I can order 100 books, or whatever.
But okay, let's explain the difference between publish on demand and print on demand.
Yeah.
Print on demand is a technology.
Yeah.
Everybody has access to print on demand. It means you order one book, they print one book, they put a cover on one book, and they ship it to you.
Yeah.
Okay. The vanity presses said, ooh, we like that. Everybody's getting on the POD bandwagon. Let's come up with something. We'll call ourselves publishers on demand to confuse authors.
Yeah.
Okay. So publish on demand is a sales model where they victimize authors. Print on demand is a technology that everyone uses.
Yep.
I use it. And we should distinguish between print on demand, which is one book gets printed at a time, and short-run digital. Short-run digital uses the same equipment, but instead of printing one book, you print 25 or 50 or 100 or 200 books, well below the number you would need to put on an offset press.
Yeah.
But if you print 25 or 50 books, then the operator of that press has an opportunity to calibrate, straighten, adjust, and make a nice-looking book.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a digitally printed book. Okay? It's, no, excuse me, that one isn't. That was printed offset. This one is a digitally printed book. And it came out beautiful. This is a Kappa member, Noreen Grice.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, this is a book that was printed large print because it was for visually impaired people. But it's printed digitally, and it comes out looking exactly like, different book, but in terms of quality, exactly like an offset printed book.
Oh.
And the reason is, she gets 50 or 100 printed at a time.
Yeah.
By a very conscientious digital printer who cares, right, and charges the same price that Lightning Source or CreateSpace would charge to print one book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and Lightning Source is a good company.
Well, Lightning Source is part of
Amazon.
No. CreateSpace is part of Amazon.
That's right.
Lightning Source is part of the company whose name I can't come up with right now, but one of the largest book distributors, and they have an arrangement with Amazon so that if you order the book from Amazon, the order goes right through their system automatically.
Off the house.
No.
No. Oh.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It'll come to me. And gets shipped in an Amazon box, as if it were being shipped by Amazon. So Lightning Source is the back-end operation, the print-on-demand operation for all of the big publishers.
Yep.
CreateSpace is part of Amazon, so it's a little harder to get from CreateSpace to the other booksellers like Barnes and Noble and so forth.
Okay.
And of course, the other thing is ebooks.
Yeah.
And with ebooks, you can be on Amazon, you can be on Barnes and Noble, you can be on Sony, you can be on the Apple iBook store, you can be on all of those, and then there's no printing cost.
Yeah.
So that's the other one.
Now, I have found that my company that I went through was Trafford, and I really have had no problems with them, just like price. And but if you write to Amazon and buy one of my books, they have it printed by Lightning Source.
They have it printed by Lightning Source.
Lightning Source then pays Trafford,
Right.
and I make $1.50 or something.
Yeah, well, because Trafford is a vanity press. All the vanity presses use Lightning Source.
Yeah.
None of
Well,
them
no,
are printers.
Well, they have their own printing.
No, they
I
don't.
think.
No, none of them do. They all mostly use Lightning Source. For the color books, they might use somebody else.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know if I get a hardcover, it was coming out of England.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I don't know what.
I don't know why.
Yeah, that cost me $75 to give them the right to do it in hardcover. Now, there's so many expenses that you really got to be careful.
Well, you do, and you have to shop around, and you have to. The other thing is, it's not just shopping around, but it's whether you work well with the person you're selecting. If you're the publisher, and the author, then you need an editor who you get along with and whose editing you understand and who understands what you're trying to say. You need a designer whose style you like.
Yeah.
So you need to compare people. You need to get quotes. You need to get samples. And that's just the competitive nature of the business.
Wow. Well, we're about run out of time. I'm just unbelievably fast. I went fast. Hang on 1 second here. I lost my page. I thought we had a lot more time left and we were going to get into some other stuff. But anyway, I really appreciate you coming down, and maybe we can do it again. Next week's guest is going to be Julie Russell. Julie is a psychoanalyst and a most fascinating young lady who has done so many different things, including motivations. Upcoming show, we've got Kip Gnu, another motivator. We were fortunate to have him at my last CAPA meeting, our summer meeting, and he agreed to come on my show. He has written articles in the book called Guerrilla Marketing. Debbie Kilday is coming on, her husband Mike. They both got different books. And thanks again to my guest tonight, Dick Margulis. It's been a pleasure being here with him. For more information about Dick, it's going to be on the screen. You can visit his website at www.dmargulis, and there it is up there, so I won't do that again. Or you can email him at dick@dmargulis.com. And you can visit me at the Big E in Springfield, Mass, CAPA Bookstore in the Connecticut building. And I'm going to be up there on Connecticut Day, which is September 19th from 10 to 4. I'll also be there September 24th from 10 to 1, and September 28th from 10 to 1. My thanks to Comcast for hosting our Books and Things, and thanks to my sponsors, and for you, my viewing audience, for watching. Be sure to write to me at my email address and let me know how you're enjoying the show. So I'll see you next week, and don't forget, curl up with a good book, and you should be reading. See you next week.